Hello. Hey everyone, as you're coming in, please be sure to tap on the orange heart at the top of your screen to become a team member. And don't forget to send your daily heart me. Hey everyone, as you're coming in, be sure to tap the orange heart at the top of your screen to become a team member, and don't forget to send your daily heart me. Hey, dance like no one is watching. I was going to discuss the gobbles. Hey, Michelle RN. And guys, as you're coming in, please don't forget to tap the orange heart at the top of your screen. If the heart at the top of your screen is gray, that means that your team membership has expired. All you have to do is tap on it and send a heart me to reactivate it. Yeah, in addition to becoming a team member, ooh, thank you. Also, don't forget to send your daily heart me. Hey everyone, if you guys can also help me out by tapping the screen and sharing this out, that would be really helpful. Gonna wait for more people to come in. If we are tapping that screen and sharing it out, more people will be in here in no time. Thank you so much for the likes, guys. I really appreciate it. Hey, Laura. Ooh, thank you. Hey, Sarah. Yeah, that's a gross noise. I have been doing so much stuff around home today. Ooh, thank you. Hey, Jeannie Rutland. I've been like wanting to go live all day, and this is the first opportunity I really could, just because dishes, laundry. I did not think I was going to get my laundry done. And you know what? I might not. We'll see. But I got a good amount of it done. If you're going to snore right behind my head, that's going to be super distracting. Nope. Coco, nope. Get away. Get away. Get away. Get away. Nope. Get away. I love you. But I love you more when you're over there. Thank you. Hey guys, as you're coming in, please don't forget to tap the orange heart at the top of your screen to become a team member. Don't forget to send your daily heart me. If the heart at the top of your screen is gray, that means your team membership has expired. All you have to do to reactivate is tap on that heart and send a heart me. And let me see. I'm going to share this out to some people right now. Carlos, you need to, hey, give me space. Ooh, thank you. Okay. Oh, you threw your back out? That sucks, hon. I'm sorry. Ooh, thank you. How'd you do that? Oh, who I am. Are you following me now? Cat litter is so heavy. Man, I'm glad I don't have cats because I don't think I could do it. I struggle enough even with the bags of the dog kibble, and I started getting like the smallest bag just because it's the easiest one to carry. Okay, good. Oh, thank you for your loyalty, who I am. I appreciate it. Lost and... My dogs are making so many weird noises, guys. They're probably going to continue making noises for the entirety of this. So, if you hear weird noises, I'm not growling at you. It's not my stomach. It's the dogs. But... good. I'm glad, Sarah and LP Lauren, that you like the dog noises. So, I had been looking at the styrofoam heads again, and I did the measurements again because I had marked with a pen on my styrofoam heads, like after measuring, it described, from the top of the head, then from the right of the anterior midline, and then to the right of the brow ridge. And it was really hard to hold the measuring tape and the head and the pen. And then when I tried to use those metal sticks, forget about it. That was so much harder than I ever could have imagined it being, trying to get this metal stick in to the right place and then out the right place. Super challenging. So I remeasured to see how kind of far off I was with things because of the struggles with getting the metal stick through. And it is off by 1 centimeter from every measuring point. So actually, the entrance wound should be 1 centimeter higher. And also 1 centimeter to the right, or 1 centimeter closer to the face. I'm going to show you this. Okay. So this should actually be, this is the entrance. This should actually be more like right here. Which, that's the entrance. That's weird, right? Because that does not seem like natural positioning. And then the exit wound, I did not redo those measurements. Sorry. Because I cared slightly less about the exit wound. Because I was focusing on so much on how awkward this is. So it'd be like closer to right here, 1 centimeter up, and then 1 centimeter closer to the face. So more like right here. But even still, that's still not a natural, right? This one is Greg. This one is Greg. The female head, pretty sure that entrance wound is pretty spot on. I didn't double check that one though, because again, I was mostly just like wanting to know about Griggs. But because of my struggles with these silly metal sticks that are impossible, right? And I did take pictures of the styrofoam heads, of the styrofoam head with the measuring tape, to be able to show, like, okay, 5 centimeters down from the top of the head, 5 down, and then, oh, what was it? 11, I think it was I think it was 8 or 11 or something from the anterior midline, and then 8 or 11 or 13 from the brow. Now I can't remember what it said. But I have pictures of it. Actually, let me... All right. So that is from the brow ridge. And that one is supposed to be, I believe it was like 11 or 12. Wait, I have a picture of what it is, of what it's supposed to be. If I can find it. Oh wait, why isn't that picture... I don't see... That's so weird, that picture's not appearing. But this is the... from the midline, anterior midline. And then the one from the top of the head. So it's supposed to be 5 centimeters from the top of the head. So it would be a little bit higher than where I had it. And then let me swipe out super fast, guys, so I can see what the other measures are. Can you guys hear me, see me? 11 from the anterior midline and 8.5 from the brow ridge. Can you guys see me, hear me? This is weird. Okay. Wow. Okay. It was, and then 11 from the anterior midline and 8.5 from the brow ridge. Remember that. 11 anterior midline, 8.5 from the brow ridge. So, okay, this one's from the top of the head again. That's supposed to be 5 centimeters. Okay, I'm going to change the picture. If I can figure out how to do the picture. Okay. All right. So this one is anterior midline. It's supposed to be 11 from the anterior midline. I have it there. It's like between 12 and 13. So I have it here at about 12.5 centimeters. It's supposed to be 11 centimeters. So just a little bit closer towards the face, a little bit towards the right. And then with this one, this is from the brow ridge. It's supposed to be 8.5. I have it at between like 10 and 11. So, but again, just a little bit more like to the right. But still, that brings it to just a little bit in front of, or a little bit closer to the face from where I have it on that. And okay. So it should be a little bit closer to like right here, give or take. And to me, that's still not, that's not like natural to me, like a natural place to hold it. I just want to make sure that I took the filter off. I did. Okay. Not filter. You guys know what I mean. I'm still new to using these TikTok words. Move over for me, dear. Thank you. Okay. So, okay, let me read your comments. Definitely not right positioning for what they say happened. Sandy, I so agree. Laura, no it isn't. April, not at all. 27, guys, as you're coming in, please be sure to tap on the orange heart at the top of your screen to become a team member. Don't forget to send your daily heart me. And if the heart at the top of your screen there is gray, that means your team membership has expired. All you have to do is tap on that and send a heart me to reactivate it. But yeah, I'm glad I double checked the measurements. But it still doesn't seem right to me. That's just not. And then also taking into consideration that there was intermediate stippling, which indicates that the GUN would have been held 6 inches to 2 feet away. That just seems so awkward to me to hold it and get, so that would be like right about like here-ish. And then oops. Looks like someone is requesting to come up. All right. Connecting. Hello? Hi. Yeah, we can hear you. Did you mean to come up?
I did. A lot of questions around the area. I'm from here, was a friend of the Gobble family.
Oh.
For years and years. And a lot of people, I have followed your post. I didn't know about it till a couple weeks ago, but I have been following and have looked at everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also heard rumors and stuff like that. So I'm just wanting to know. I know because I've looked at everything. But a lot of people haven't took the time to look at everything that you posted. So who are you? How'd you get involved in this? And or is anybody paying you from Davie County to do this?
Okay. So, I guess I will like start at the beginning. I did not know anything about the Gobbles. I
was looking into something else.
Right.
Stumbled on this.
Yeah, so I had been looking into the Micah Francis or Micah Miller case in South Carolina, and I had done a Freedom of Information Act request with the Myrtle Beach Police Department, and I requested all records related to Micah, John Paul Miller, and 803 Howard Avenue. And they sent me back like a little over 200 records, written reports, audio recordings, and camera footage from dash cams. And it took me a little while to like go through all of it. And that's when I discovered the 911 call in there that a Davie County investigator made to the Myrtle Beach Police Department on May 30th, 2024 at 11:41 p.m. And in that 911 call, the Davie County investigator basically said to Myrtle Beach Police, we've got a missing couple out here from North Carolina, and 2 witnesses just reported a sighting at 803 Howard Avenue. In addition to that, I did an interview earlier today, and the person I interviewed told me that Greg had a connection to Redacted in Myrtle Beach. And so because of that, I started reaching out to some people who, let me say that again. I started researching who was this couple, like what happened. And because what I wanted to do was I wanted to call the couple to try to find out why they were at the church that night. And then I discovered that they had been found deceased in North Carolina less than 12 hours after that alleged reported sighting. So then I started reaching out to people connected to the couple to try to find out if any of this was expected, was it unexpected? And from there, having heard from people who knew them that this totally caught them off guard. They didn't believe that Greg ever would have done something like this. From there, I started requesting things more specific to the Gobbles. That is how I sort of became involved with it, and nobody is paying me. There is no agreement on anything. I was not hired. There is no cahooting or agreement in place. I'm just kind of doing this, and over time now there are more family, extended family, friends of the family that I've been getting connected with because of the Justice for the Gobble Facebook page. And because people all said that this was very out of character for Greg, and they never believed from the minute that all this had been reported, they never believed for a second that he had done it. So that's how I got involved.
Yes. Very, very, very difficult to believe that this was Greg. It's unimaginable. I woke up every morning for months, and it was the first thing that popped in my head, that they were gone, and nothing's going to change that. But I think the family and friends, people who knew Cindy and Greg, at least deserve to know what really happened,
Right.
so they can get closure and move on. I've heard a lot of stories about Greg's difficulties with Brandy, and I was told that Cindy was not able to handle Brandy, and she took her to her father's parents and let them raise her for a lot of those years.
Those are the Becks, right? The Becks?
Yes. And it's just, it's upsetting to me that now, well, knowing the background, the big elephant in the room that a lot of people don't want to talk about or acknowledge was Cindy's second husband tried to kill her too. And he ended up killing himself.
Mm-hmm.
So if he had been successful, you know, what would I just OG Josh, streamer, millionaire, that's her son.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I understand, him and his half sister Brandy, which Brandy was Cindy's first marriage, a child from that.
Mm-hmm.
Josh was the second marriage and the son of Steve Beaver, who tried to kill Cindy and then ended up killing himself. So now Josh and Brandy are trying to sue the Gobble family, something about the Slayer law. And it's totally unfair. They love Cindy, and obviously Cindy loved them and Kendall, which, she named him in her will, just like she did her son Josh,
Mm-hmm.
separate from Greg. It wasn't as Greg's heir. It was him as his own person.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just disturbing that these two adults, especially Josh being as successful as he is, has that much anger.
Right.
It's not going to hurt Greg.
Right.
It's going to hurt the family that loved their mother, that Cindy would never want them to do this. I don't know how they can tell themselves she would. She would not want them to be trying to put them through this. That's my opinion. I think it's terrible, and it's not the Slayer law. I just don't feel like it should come into this.
Right.
Against the Gobble family. They lost two people that they loved.
Mm-hmm.
And the way, everything Brandy has said, I've looked on her Facebook account, and the comments that she's made on there is disgusting, in my opinion, against Greg and how all this went down and all that. But I have also heard that Brandy didn't like Greg. I know she's the one who called Greg, wanting him to hide her mama from Steve Beaver, because he was looking for her, did want to kill her.
Mm-hmm.
And so, she was fine with Greg and Cindy being together until she found out they was going to get married. Something about, I think you mentioned that on one of your podcasts before, but something about she didn't want him to end up with the money that was hers or something.
Right. Yeah, she didn't put up with Steve Beaver all those years just to lose her inheritance to Kendall and Greg.
Right. I just, it don't make sense to me. And if I was Josh, I would be asking myself, how would he feel if Brandy was doing this to him? If his dad had been successful in unaliving Cindy.
That's an excellent point. That is an excellent point. I don't think I had really thought about it like that. But I did think it was kind of odd for her that to be in the history of her second husband attempting to do that to her, and then and Brandy hating the second husband, and then the third husband Brandy also hates, And then a similar dynamic, allegedly.
Right. And Cindy only having a relationship with her after she had a grandchild, which Cindy adored. I was friends with Cindy on Facebook and we shared pictures. I have a niece that was born around the same time, and we shared pictures and we doodled over them, and talked about each other, because the love just oozes. She absolutely adored them grandkids, and from what I understand, Randy realized that and used that to control and manipulate Cindy, and purposely cause problems for Greg and Cindy. Every time I ever seen Greg and Cindy together, they were always laughing, smiling. It was never any tension. It just blew my mind. It just blew my mind. I have heard since that after Cindy had sent Greg the papers, separation papers, that they were at the Gobble's home celebrating, I believe it was Easter, when Greg announced to his family that, after they had ate and all that, he hated to do it on whatever holiday it was. And I think it was Easter.
Mm-hmm.
He said he hated to do it, but they were all together and he wanted them to hear it from him instead of anybody else that Cindy was wanting a divorce.
Mm-hmm.
And Cindy got real upset, real mad, and was shaking and saying, "That's not true. That's a lie." And they had never seen that side of her before. So it's like she was torn, you know. And then, she was still there Mother's Day with Greg. She was there on her birthday with Greg. It was the family members I have talked to about it said that she was back and forth on what she wanted. And Greg was just tore up. But the night this happened, Greg had been at his mom's that day, and she had fixed him chicken livers and onions, and fixed Cindy chicken tenders. And told him, said, whenever he got ready to go, said, "Greg, take this with you. I fixed y'all dinner." Because she did that a lot. She's a wonderful woman. And Greg said, "No, Mama, Cindy's getting off early tonight. And we're going out to eat." He said, we'll get that tomorrow. And so she said, "Okay." And at the gravesite, she said, "That plate's still in the refrigerator and they ain't never going to eat it. They're never going to, So, this just tore that family apart. And then not even being invited to go to the funeral, all this bitterness. And Brandy had made a picture of the weight loss diabetic medicine and posted about love and forgiveness and her mom's compassion indoors. And that what they're doing is not enduring their mom's compassion.
Mm-hmm.
It's terrible. It's terrible. And I don't even think Greg did this from all the proof. It's more than reasonable doubt that he even done this.
Right.
And why? Now I'm sorry, but on my keyboard, every keyboard I ever saw, the 2 is way away from the 9. They're trying to say, well, first they said he shot a 22. Then they say Now you're saying they changed it to a 9 millimeter.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the measurements don't line up.
Right.
And, you know, most people who unalive themselves, they do it point blank. They don't hold a gun out from their head. And on the autopsy report, it says that there was stifling. It was intermediate range, which means it was held out from his head, 6 inches to 2 foot or something, up to that, at least 6 inches away for it to cause that stippling, however you pronounce that. So that is not common in that situation of somebody unaliving themselves.
Right. And Kitty, there was a question a little while ago from Gail. She said, "Do y'all think Brandy gave her an ultimatum between the grandchildren or Greg?"
Oh yeah, I heard that she had told Cindy that she did not want her kids around Greg. So, you know, Cindy had not actually moved out. She was staying at a camper, from what I've been told. Like, she'd only stayed at a camper for the past 2 weeks at Brandy's house, is what I was told. So, you know, yeah, I definitely think that Brandy was everything I've heard about her. I don't know her personally, but I definitely think there was an ultimatum for that, because Brandy didn't want Cindy with Greg. Because, and here's, I know one reason why, and he told one of my good friends this, that Brandy was so disrespectful to Cindy, and Greg would not allow her to talk to her disrespectfully in front of him. And she could not stand that. And from everything I've seen on yours and the replies and everybody I've talked to, Brandy has to be in control. It sounds like she's a very controlling person. Well, actually, Cindy had told the Gobble family when she started seeing Greg that she did not, I don't know if she still had custody of Brandy, but that she could not handle Brandy. That she was letting the Becks, is it Becks, raise her, her dad's family, because she was so, and this was, they said Cindy's words, she was evil and manipulating. And I don't know what, I mean, this was at least 15 years ago, 14. Well, no, because Steve died in 2010. So it would have been, 13 years ago, whenever she told him that. That she just could not have a relationship with her. So, I mean, when a mom tells somebody that their daughter is evil and manipulating, then I would say that person's probably evil and manipulating.
Right. I'm just going to say really quick, I noticed that there's some other people requesting to come up on the panel. Right now, because we finally have somebody on the panel who was local, who knew the people involved, who knew the Gobbles, who's speaking. I'd rather not let anybody else up right now, but in the meantime, rather than requesting to come up, if other people could please just put in the comments if you have a question or whatever it is that you wanted to contribute, rather than coming up. I'm just gonna let it be Kitty for now, just to not have too many people talking over each other. Sorry, Kitty.
That's okay. And if you need to do that, I'm fine with that. I just wanted to get, I wanted to get that out there. I just think it's horrible that Cindy's children are causing all this chaos, and why don't they want the truth? I mean, we all just want the truth so we can, put some closure on it and try to move on, and let the Gobble family move on, because they are, they have suffered. Like I said, they love both of them with all their heart. Obviously, Josh and Brandy didn't feel that way about Greg, or they wouldn't be doing this to his family. And his family are totally innocent. And I'm thinking Greg is too. I mean, what do you think? I mean,
it certainly seems like they are taking out all of their anger, resentment, and just everything on the Gobbles. And the sad thing is that it's Greg's son who I feel like is getting the worst of it. When I was doing my initial research into all of this, one of the first places I looked was Facebook. And, so I saw Brandy's posts, when they initially went missing on May 29th, saying, guys, please keep an eye out for my mom. And then I kept seeing Greg's son popping up in the comments. Don't forget, my dad's missing too.
right.
And then I saw his post that, that he wasn't allowed to be at the services. They wouldn't let him be there. And then now Cindy's estate, that Josh is the conservator for, or the executor of, is suing Greg's estate. And it's like again, they're just going after him, taking out everything on
The living, the innocent people that are still alive and went through this tragedy with them, I know, I read Greg's son's post too, and it was heartbreaking, that he had been told he cannot go
right.
to who he referred to as his mama bear,
Right.
Cindy. So, I don't understand why the sheriff's department's not allowing the Gobble family to see all the evidence that they have. That may be enough to give them closure and be able to move on. And everybody else in the county. Greg knew so many people. He has so much family, knew so many people, was very respected. He trained canine dogs for the police department. And he was he was a great person. And like every interaction I ever had with Cindy was good. I have heard stuff that makes me think that there may have been two Cindys, but everything that I ever seen or heard about her before all this happened, was, and she, loved Greg. And I was at his brother's funeral, and Greg's back there, and whenever a lot of people was leaving, and there were some people on motorcycles leaving, and Greg was videoing them when they left, and Cindy was just standing there looking at it with just admiration, and wanting to make sure he was okay, because he had just buried his brother,
Right.
So the woman that Brandy talks about in her post, talking about her mother, would not want all this. Whether Greg did it or not, she would not be okay with this.
Mm-hmm.
And she is in heaven, and I feel like Greg is in heaven too now. Brandy had put a nasty post up about somebody telling her that it's supposedly a spiritual leader, which I can't imagine anybody saying this because everybody's relationship with the Lord is a personal one. But she put on there that she had talked to somebody about, if Greg would make it to heaven, and they assured her that he would not. And it gave her solace. That was, that I can't, now if people can go through life and be evil their whole life and God forgive them, I cannot imagine somebody living the life that Greg Gobble lived. He was a God-fearing, God-loving man. I cannot imagine God not forgiving him. If he done this, which I don't believe he did, but if he did, I know if Greg Gobble done this, he prayed about it, and before he even done it, I know he had to. But I don't believe Greg done it. According to the proof, I mean, it don't add up. And why they won't just investigate it, give the Gobble family all their what they have. I mean, if they take it to court, they're going to have to show it then. Why not just do it now?
Right.
And that one court paper you had put up in the last video about Cindy and Brandy being best friends, and it said that Cindy supported both her children.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's different kinds of support, but I found an article where Josh had it was a big contract, big deal or something. I'll send it to you. But he had said in there, oh, and I think this was like 4 years ago, but he's like, you don't know what this means to me. I support my mom and my family. And I mean, it was about him getting a contract with monetary value. So I take that as, he was, supporting his mom financially, which is great. I would hope if I had a son and he was making millions, he might get mom a kickback too,
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like they're little children that needed their mom's financial support.
Right. I saw a video on, I think it was Cindy's parents' Facebooks. There was a video in there of, I think it's on Christmas. Josh hands his grandparents an envelope and then stands back to watch them open it and watch their reaction. And his grandparents or Cindy's parents just start crying because in the letter he explains that he's like a millionaire now and they don't have to worry about paying their bills anymore because he's going to take care of their bills.
Right. Now you have that person that is that given, has been blessed, obviously, with doing what he loves to do, streaming, gaming, whatever you call it. And then, but he's going to be this bitter person to his stepbrother, you know, that, and it's ironic because if Josh's dad had been successful in unaliving Cindy, then maybe Brandy would have tried to take everything Josh has or that Steve had.
Right.
And I just, from what all I've heard and what all I've read out of her, in her own words, I believe she would have. I believe she would have sued Josh also.
Right.
It's, she's doing these groups now, domestic violence groups. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Was there ever any reports of Greg ever putting his hands on Cindy? I mean,
no, there was absolutely no documented history of domestic violence.
I've never heard of, either of Greg ever being violent towards a woman. Never. So, I understand, domestic abuse can come in other forms. But from everything I've understood and that I know I've heard about Brandy, she's an abuser. And it's ironic to me that she's actually putting on domestic violence classes when, in my opinion, she's mentally and verbally abusive to people, and she was to her mother.
Wow.
I mean, it's like hypocrisy at the highest level. My opinion.
Right. Right. And that's the thing too, is people with narcissistic type personalities are really good at spinning things. And I was just talking about this in a live yesterday. Anybody who was in my live yesterday heard me talking about it, that, narcissists can spin things and accuse you of attacking them and claim that they themselves are the victim, when in fact it was them who attacked you when you did nothing.
Exactly. And I happened to run into a person that works with Brandy's husband.
Oh.
Right after this happened. And he had on his uniform. And I said, so you work, for the MT or whatever. And he said, yeah. And I mentioned about the Gobbles, and he said it has caused a lot of, I don't know if I think he used like stress or strife between the sheriff's department and EMT. And I was like, why? I said, I know, it's not Greg's son, because he's a sweet, sweet man too. And he said, no, it's Brandy. And I was like, okay. I mean, we keep coming around to this one denominator, and she's, but she's left out of her mama's will. That should speak volumes about if her mom trusted her or not, to me.
Right.
That's, and Greg, obviously Greg would not let her by with treating her mom that way, and she didn't like that.
Right.
I also heard that I've heard a lot of stuff, but it's all a lot of it's hearsay. But now it's from reliable sources that got it from the horse's mouth, you know. But I was told that Brandy also took a check out of her mom's checkbook and forged it and cashed it. And Greg had confronted her about it and told her that she was going to pay her mom back. And
Was
you
that
know,
the blow up? Was that that event that led to the blow up at Christmas?
it was during the holiday. I don't know if it was Thanksgiving or Christmas. It was during the holiday. I don't know how long ago it was. I just know, you know, from a reliable source. And um, she was sitting at the table with them, and she wouldn't pass the food around. From what I understand, Brandy would not pass the food around. So Greg called her out. I mean, he said, you know, let me tell everybody what Brandy's problem is. We should be the ones mad, you know, not her. But, you know, he told them that she took a check, forged it, cashed it, and they confronted her about it and wanted her to pay back. And I mean, from what I understand, it wasn't a small sum of money either.
Mhm.
And so he said, you know, we're all here trying to enjoy our time together or whatever, you know. And Brandy was sitting there, blowed up like a bullfrog, and wouldn't pass the damn potatoes. I mean, come on, you know.
Yeah, she was just like being mad and stubborn, and
Right, right, right. I mean, like, I don't know. She's, uh, I'd, I don't know, narcissist. I would say that might be a good
right.
description.
Right. Now somebody asked a question in the comments here. JJ asked, Brandy doesn't come from money, and from my understanding, her grandparents, her father's parents do have a lot of money, but her father's parents and her father are still alive, so she hasn't inherited anything yet.
Right, right. Well, bless her heart.
Right.
You know, both of my parents are gone, and I didn't inherit nothing. I have their memories. You know,
Right.
we should not be, you know, just like her putting up that fund for after Cindy died, you know, wanting people to fund Cindy's grandchildren's college, you know, and you know, I, I don't know what to say about that. All I know is it wasn't Cindy's responsibility to fund her grandchildren's college, you know.
Right, right. Is that
Um,
one of those GoFundMe's? A lot of people reached out to me and told me that Brandy had all these like different GoFundMe's trying to collect money, and some of them had to do with her kids. Was that?
yeah, I seen one. I seen one. That one. I can send you a copy of it. I've
Okay.
made a lot of snapshots and stuff. I cannot see as much on Brandy's post as I could before. I think she's keeping more stuff private now, but um,
Right.
you know, evidently she had Cindy's phone or Cindy's password for Facebook because after this happened, like I said, me and Cindy was friends on Facebook, and you know we messaged a lot. And I looked up, you know, I'm on Messenger one day, and I look up, and Cindy Gobble's active, and I'm like, what, you know?
Mm.
So I contacted some of the family members, and one of them just said, you know, Brandy probably has her phone, which I would think she probably had her phone because I don't think Cindy would have gave her password to her Facebook account. I mean, that's just my opinion. Um,
Right.
you know.
Somebody asked a question here, and I don't know if you know the answer to it. And right after I read the question, I can just like say what I had heard, just in case you don't know the answer. But Pretty in Pink asked, "Is Brandy a state medical examiner for Davie County?" From what I heard, she and her husband, so Brandy and her husband Andy, used to share the same Facebook account, and now they have separate accounts. But the medical examiner for Davie County was actually her, well, or working for the medical examiner's office of Davie County. That was actually her husband who had that job, not her.
That
Katie, I don't know if you know anything different.
I understand it the same way you do, because I wondered about that too. Because I had contacted somebody with Iredell County, and said, she does not need to be involved in doing that, because I was thinking she worked for the ME's office. I'm like, she don't need to be involved in it, that. And they said Iredell County was handling that, and that her husband worked for Davie County. That was, and they had shared, Greg and Cindy shared a Facebook account for years. And I remember last year, I'd sent Cindy, well, I thought I was sending Cindy and Greg a message about some herbs that they had found somebody in Winston when Greg was sick with cancer. And they were telling me about it when I seen them at one of the restaurants. And so I was calling to find out more because my husband had been real sick. So anyway, what was my point of that? Where was I going with that?
About Brandy or Andy working for the medical examiner's office, Iredell County,
Oh, yeah.
handling.
Yeah, but I still don't know why I went. I'm sorry. I don't know why I went there. But anyway, yeah, that's what I. Cindy and Greg were. It was Cindy and Greg Gobble. That was the Facebook account. So, and then I noticed before, I don't know how long before this happened, that was just Cindy on there. It wasn't Cindy and Greg no more. And, I just thought, well, one of my brothers ain't even friends with his wife on Facebook anymore because she was trying to tell him what to say. So on Facebook, and I thought, well, maybe Cindy said something Greg didn't agree with. It never, ever crossed my mind that there was any problems. Never. She adored him, and he did her.
Right.
So, I do. In my heart, I feel like Brandy purpose, and I know because some family members told me she purposely tried to cause problems with them, and obviously succeeded. It's Cindy staying in the camper at her house. I mean, but they also, a close family member told me that they were, during those 2 weeks, they were texting each other and saying how they couldn't sleep without the other one, and missing each other and all that. So I mean, if that's going on, then why are you staying in a camper at your daughter's house?
Right.
Um,
Right. Kiki says to see them out, you wouldn't think there was anything wrong.
right, right, yep. Yeah, and if the Gobble family is a very humble, down to earth family. They do not put on any airs or anything. I mean, what you see is what you get. If Greg Gobble had not been happy, I think you would have seen it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he would have just been pretending to be happy.
Teresa Spoon asked if she was afraid, if Cindy was afraid of Greg, why did she go to the house that day?
Right. I don't know. Well, his mom told me at the graveyard that Greg had worked there all day. His dogs was there by his mom's house, and he farmed there. And as far as I know, they were still doing cattle too. They had raised cattle for years. Um, but anyway, he had been working there, and she had fixed some dinner, when they were going out to dinner. And she said, Kim, something had to have happened. Something happened because everything was okay. Everything was good. They was going out to eat. Something happened.
So Greg's mother said that to you, Kitty, that something had to have happened.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, everything was good that day. Sandy was getting off at 6. She didn't normally get off till 9. They were going out to eat. You know,
Hmm.
he didn't take the chicken livers and liver and onions and the chicken tenders for Cindy that his mom had prepared for Cindy and Greg.
Hmm.
So that's what she said. Um,
Because
obviously,
Greg and Cindy were planning on going out to dinner.
right,
Right.
right. Yep, yep, yep. So why Cindy went by, I heard that one post was to water flowers or something. Um, and another one said something about going to visit the dogs, which, as far as I know, they was just one that they kept, but that's all. I know she loved Lacey.
Lacey was the
Um,
dog.
yeah, yeah, and that's one Brandy has. I think that's one Brandy has on her Facebook cover now. And that was one of the dogs that Greg um, had and trained. I think he actually raised that dog, but I could be wrong. He may have bought it when it was a puppy. I know they had another German Shepherd. I think her name was Bella, and she was Greg's when they got together. And then they were telling me the story that um, Bella decided she would always go with Greg everywhere he went, but um, she decided one day that she wasn't going with Greg anymore. She's staying with Cindy, and she stayed home from with Cindy. Unless Cindy went, she didn't go. She stayed with Cindy. Then she still loved Greg, but Cindy was her. You know, um, her person, I guess. Her. She had decided she was going to stay with her. So, and they just, they loved. They told me that story together, and they loved it.
Right.
The dog had chose her um, to hang out with. So
Right.
it was sweet. It was. They were sweet. It was.
Right. Right. Pretty in Pink asked what happened after he worked all day. And just from what I understand, it sounds like he worked at his mom's farm all day and then went to head back to 348 Country Lane because Cindy was going to be coming by and they had plans, they were going to be going out for dinner, right?
Right. That's what the way I. Yes, ma'am. That's what I understood. Yep. Yep.
And someone else said, this is just like speculation in their question, but they're asking, could Brandy have made up some story about Greg involving SA, like, sexual
Um,
abuse, affair, anything like that to Cindy?
that actually. Um, a good friend of mine and Greg's both had seen Greg one day, and he was telling her about Brandy being rude and hateful to her mom and him not allowing it. And my friend said, and maybe he had told her that day that Brandy was saying she didn't want the kids around him or something, but Greg said he made it a point to tell my friend that day. He said, I ain't stupid. He said, I have never been alone with her kids. I made a point not to, because Greg had an uncle that was accused of something with his stepdaughter. And I mean, it was awful. It was terrible. And he went to prison over it. And he was set
Greg
up.
just didn't trust Brandy. Like he just like
Well, Greg wasn't going to put himself, well, he did not trust Brandy, and he wasn't going to put himself in a position for anybody to do him the way his uncle had been done.
makes sense.
Right. So, you know, no, no way in hell. Now, did it that she may have tried to, but there was no way because he had never been alone with him,
Right.
you know. And maybe that's, maybe Cindy told her that Greg didn't want to be alone with him, you know. I don't know, but he made sure he was not.
Someone else had asked a bit earlier if you know whether or not Greg or Cindy had any connection or association with Solid Rock Church.
I don't.
Okay.
I don't know. Knowing both of them and as active in the church as they were, I know they went to the beach. I seen pictures on Facebook. It was that, they were on the ocean. I didn't know if it was Myrtle or not, but if they were at Myrtle Beach and it was Sunday, I wouldn't doubt at all that they didn't go to church down there, Greg God loved the Lord. He walked around giving out silver crosses to people and talking to people about what all Jesus had done for him in his life. So I wouldn't doubt that he didn't visit that church if they were down there, but I don't know that he had any connection to the church at all. I don't know.
Right. I'm just gonna scroll back. 'Cause I know there were other questions that I think were missed.
Some churches do have books where people can sign, or if they're visiting or something. I don't know if anybody could follow that up or not, but I don't know.
Someone had said she has money issues, meaning Brandy has money issues, and you believe that's why her mother and Greg aren't with us anymore.
I don't know anything about that. I don't know anything about that. Somebody had told me that. Brandy's daughter called Cindy a lot when she was in like preschool or something. Very often wanting $50. And, somebody in Greg's family said to Cindy, why would a kid in preschool need $50 all the time? And I don't know what Cindy's reply was to that, but I know that was said from a reliable source. Other people, hearsay stuff was Brandy was, always want money from her mom, or want her mom to buy this or that, or do this and that, or, stuff like that. So,
Right. Joanne Owings said, "Did Cindy actually have a tracker on her vehicle?" And Joanne, I can answer that. It's known that there was a tracker on her car, and Greg admitted to having put it there.
okay. I didn't know. I knew there was a tracker, and I knew that had been reported. So I didn't know if, he had actually done it or hired somebody to do it, but
Yeah, from what I understand, he had like reached out to a PI who consulted for him and kind of consulted for him like that, it's legal for him to do this because he owns the car too, because it's marital property.
okay. His name was on the vehicle. Okay. Yeah.
And then Kitty, Angie Brown wants to know, what do you think happened to them?
Obviously, it was murder. Oh, I ain't supposed to say that word on here. I mean, double murder. However, you're supposed to. That it's obvious to me. Somebody does not hold a GUN at that angle from that far away to unalive themselves. It just don't add up. And the inconsistencies in the reports that you showed, and it actually says 22 instead of 9. And the 2 is not near the 9 on the keyboard. That is not a typo. It's a hell of a mistake if it was a mistake, but that is not a typo. And why did they have 22 in their brain instead of 9?
But also the measurements on the autopsy report.
Right.
I spoke to so many people who have to schmoot. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the word, but schmoot animals throughout the day, like livestock and stuff. And they told me you cannot, like, they have never seen a 9 make that small of a wound.
Well, especially in that part of the head too. That's skull. That would have been skull. You know what I mean? It's not like skin that's going to sink in and then, come back out, spring back out.
Right.
The skull don't do like a chest would or a cheek would and spring back out like that.
Right.
And the hole was measuring half the size of 9mm. So I just hope and pray that the Gobble family do not give up their fight for justice and for Greg's legacy.
Right.
Because he deserves, and Cindy does too. Cindy does too. They both, deserve the truth. And both families deserve to be able to have peace. And I just think it's disgusting what Brandy and Josh are trying to do to the Kendall family. It has nothing to do with forgiveness or passion. They ain't done nothing. They are innocent. They're hurting too.
Right.
And especially as well off as Josh is. Why, Josh, it's in and I can share it with you so you can share it. But it's in the interview. He's supporting his mom. This contract or whatever it was such a blessing, because he was supporting his mom and his family. Okay, his mom's not here anymore. If your sister is that needy, then why don't you throw her a few bucks a month? Why don't you help her out? And instead of trying to get a hold of property that's been in the family for generations, you know. Um, Even though Cindy put Brandy, I'm sorry, even though Cindy put Greg's son in the will separate from Greg, he's an heir to her also, but I'm sure Greg's son does not want what Cindy had before they got married. If they don't go after what his dad had before they got married.
Right.
And as far as I know, the only thing Cindy and Greg had bought together, besides maybe some automobiles, was a modular that they had put on a piece of land that Greg's daddy had gave him. And the modular was not up to expectations. I don't know whose. I know Cindy lived in a very beautiful home that Steve Beaver, had. Or maybe her and Steve had it together. All I know is I seen pictures. It's a beautiful home. But Greg and Cindy never moved into that modular because it was not, built the way they wanted it. Or I remember I seen them somewhere else eating and sat down and talked to them, and they were saying that they had paid for extra 2x4s or something in the walls, and Greg had took a nail, down the wall, trying to find the studs, extra studs that were supposed to be in there, and they weren't, they weren't in there. So but they had paid extra to have it built extra well, and the people had not done it. They did. Cindy told me she had a book like 2-3 inches thick of documentation on everything, and they had went to court, and they told me the judge had ruled against them. That the judge went for the side of the builder, the manufacturer, or whoever.
And that was Vanderbilt LLC or something, right?
Yeah,
'Cause I saw a couple of lawsuits that they had with them.
yeah. So they were, very sad about that. I had talked to Greg, I don't know, a year or two before this happened, and I'll tell you the kind of man he was. He told me, he said, I had, he was down that day, and he said he had a couple of contracts, or he thought he was going to get contracts with law enforcement. And I can't remember if he said Georgia or South Carolina, or maybe both, with his dogs, training dogs for him. And they had asked him, well, they had told him, one of them, that they wanted him to train the dog to alert even when there wasn't something to alert to, so they could maybe search somebody's car unlawfully. And Greg told him he would not do it. And they, this guy told Greg he would, and Greg said, no, I won't. That's unlawful. And so Greg didn't get the contract, and it upset him because he was really, looking forward to it. He'd spent a lot of time with the dogs, and that didn't work out for him. And I told him, I said, Greg Gobble, you are a good man, and God knows that. And the good Lord will open more doors for you somewhere else. Don't you get discouraged. God is not going to allow uh, this, to happen to you. And you only was trying to do the right thing, the lawful thing. Which, lawmen like that, the majority of them are good. But, only a few bad apples, and it'll make the whole bunch bad. So,
Right.
but yeah, he was discouraged that day.
Understandably.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But he was not going to do something to help them do unlawful things to, citizens. It wasn't even in our area.
Right, right. And honestly, that makes it even harder to believe that he could have done this, that he could have been responsible for hurting Cindy and then himself.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that would take somebody that's been in yoga for a long time to be able to wrap your arm back there, and I mean, come on, it just don't make sense.
And a bit earlier, Angie had asked for a recap of what the kids were doing. I'm just going to give her a really quick recap. So we were talking about Cindy's estate suing Greg's estate. So Cindy's son, Josh, is technically the executor of her estate. So because of that, anything happening with the estate is done like in his name as the executor on behalf of her estate. So, because Brandy wasn't in the will, she didn't name her executor, and she wasn't in charge of anything. And
Speaks volumes of their relationship.
yeah,
Sorry,
so
I hate it. I know that's got to be very painful
yeah,
for her, but that is what your mom chose. And
right. But there had to be a reason for why she chose that.
exactly, and they can lie to themselves all they want to, but their mom would not be wanting them doing this. Period.
Because then also so many of the pictures I see, in more in the last like decade or so, all the pictures of Cindy are with Greg's son,
Yes.
not not her own daughter. And then Josh, I mean, lives in Colorado. And then just to I guess wrap up my response to the question. Um, so but so so that's what was happening, or that's what we were talking about before, was the lawsuit of Cindy's, like, I mean, I know a lot of times I phrase it as Cindy's kids um on behalf of her estate are suing Greg's estate. Technically, on legal paperwork, it's Josh, as the executor of Cindy's estate, is suing Kendall as the executor of Greg's estate. But and now I don't know if you know anything about this, Kitty, but from what I understand,
But let me stop you for a second, though. Ain't that messed up too? Since Kendall was named, Greg's son was named separately in Cindy's will as his own person, not Greg's heir.
right?
So he should have something to say about Cindy's estate. He's named in it.
Right.
I mean, come on. She loved him. Just
You
like,
can tell in those pictures too.
yes, 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 yes. They were very close. He was very loving and respectful towards her too. If he had been, she wouldn't have put him in her will separately, just like her own son's list. It's I mean, I can't. I know that one thing you put up, yeah, and it was a picture of them saying, "Well, we'll just let the court decide." Whenever they were saying that Cindy and Brandy was like best friends.
Yeah.
I cannot see, or a jury. I think it said a jury, didn't it? I hope.
I don't know because that's like that was in the part of an answer document, but like the only part of that I really wanted people to focus on when they were watching
I
the
know.
video was the statement of like Brandy, according to Brandy, she and her mom are like best friends.
Right. I knew it, but I'm nosy and I dissect everything and look at every single thing. And I saw, about the court or jury decide. And I'm like, yeah, that's what they need is a jury because I do not see anybody on, I don't see 12 people on a jury saying, oh, yeah, let's just rip this family apart.
Right.
Even though this property's been in he had it before they married, she's got hers and he had his. They had that one thing together, and it was, a modular that, for whatever reason, didn't meet expectations, never lived in. If Randy wants that, let her have it. Come pull it off the land, and you got your mom's home and whatever else she had, and you can have the modular and just let it go.
Right.
I'm sure that the Gobble family would be fine with that.
Yep.
And Cindy's property is worth a whole lot more than what you showed, what you had on there with Greg's properties listed. I mean, Cindy's home is worth double what you had listed there, that you'd showed about Greg. So,
I had a list of her property stuff too. The specific of the video you're referring to was everything that the news stations have reported were alleged by Cindy's daughter and were inaccurate. So everything that had everything that was being put out by the news media when they were first it was first being alleged that they were like being reported missing, none of it was accurate. It was all like it was all false information, and it made everyone start narrowing in on Greg. And
and
so
having tunnel vision when they got to the scene.
So that video was more like designed of like I had the news report going in the background so that you could hear what they were saying, and then I was showing evidence or proof to show that none of this was accurate.
Right. Like Cindy had diabetes.
Right, when she was doing a once weekly injectable Monjaro. Like, Randy's over there saying, oh my God, my mom, she doesn't go anywhere without her insulin. She needs her diabetes medication. She never goes anywhere without it. It's a once weekly injectable.
Oh, yeah. I run into somebody else at my doctor's office. She's actually a medical assistant saying, now, this was a big time rumor, and I didn't even know it until you said Cindy wasn't even a diabetic till I seen that on your video or your podcast. I don't know. Justice for the Gobbles. I seen it on that. And this lady saying, oh, yeah, she had just been seen by so and so. She was a horrible diabetic. And I'm like, really? And she's like, well, she must have suffered terribly. And I'm like, and she was saying some other stuff that she didn't know what she was talking about with Greg, and she didn't know I knew him, and I confronted her in the doctor's office. I was like, that is not true. I didn't know that she wasn't a diabetic at the time. I hope I run into the medical assistant again and tell her, don't know where she got that from either. But, she was talking, like Greg was a monster. And I'm like, no, he was not. No, he was not. He was a kind man. And I'll just go ahead and say it. Me and Greg dated back in high school. He was the most young man that I ever dated, and very respectful.
Mhm.
So, um, but that's how stuff spread that, Brandy had put out there.
Right.
More, trying to find them. I mean, maybe what if they did go to the beach and had a good time, and was just to get away from all the outside influences, that might not have wanted them to be together, which I can only think of one, you know, and something terrible happened, you know, or, maybe somebody didn't like that they were going to get back together. I mean, I don't know.
Right. Um, one of the things I had heard, I just want to say this, and then I want to go back to what I was finishing up a second ago. Now, one of the things I had heard from people close to Cindy is that she had started going to Krispy Kreme like just about every night, like shortly before she died. I can't imagine a diabetic doing that.
No,
Right,
I
and
hadn't heard anything I hadn't heard anything about that, but no, that would not be, that wouldn't be what you'd want to end your day with there.
right. And then just to go back to what I was saying before when I was talking about like the lawsuit and everything. Now, now, I had only heard this reported to me by a couple people. So, and typically I like to hear something confirmed by like multiple sources before I really start talking about it, or when I'm doing a live or something, I'll usually let people know this has only been confirmed by one additional source, or this is like just new coming in. I haven't been able to confirm anything yet. But so this I only had confirmed by a couple of people. But from what I understand, even though Josh is the executor of Cindy's estate, and it would be technically like I guess him and Brandy doing it together, just without like Brandy's name on any of the legal documents. From what I understand, like right now they are like tight in this kind of like this little like war that they've started against Greg's son, Greg's estate. But from what I understand, Brandy hated Josh their whole lives. Didn't have really any interest in him until now he's the executor of the estate.
Right.
Do you
I,
think about that, Kitty?
I don't have any knowledge of that. Um, their relationship, I know in my heart that how Cindy felt about Brandy. There's no way Josh didn't know. I mean, why, Josh had to ask himself, why is my half sister not living with us? You know, um, and Cindy and Josh, according to Josh, was very close, talked all the time on the phone. And there's no way he didn't know um, what kind of relationship that Cindy and Brandy had. And I know Cindy had to have told him about her taking the money and, you know, causing trouble or trying to in between her and Greg. I was wondering because I'm like, all of a sudden, is your half sister your best friend? I mean,
Kitty, I have a feeling Brandy might be in here.
might be what?
In here listening.
I don't care. I mean, I ain't said nothing that I have pointed out that a lot of my stuff's hearsay, but a lot of it that I brought up has been straight from the horse's mouth.
Mhm.
And, Brandy, if she is listening, Brandy, you know in your heart what you did do manipulate and cause problems. And if your mother is the person that you put in your, talk about it in your sight, the loving, compassionate, forgiving person, she would not want y'all doing this to the Gobbles. She would not. Nothing is going to bring her back. Nothing is going to bring neither one of them back. And this vengeance is for the Lord.
Right.
And everything I've heard, I know Cindy would not want them doing this. It's not right. And Josh should watch his back. If his dad had been successful, he would be the one to get sued.
Right. Somebody actually just had commented a while ago. Yes, Laura, there was a big age difference. It was about 10 years. But Pretty in Pink said Josh OG owned a significant amount of equity. And then I can't tell if that's a typo or what. Something scam gambling site. He promoted it, gambled on it.
Yeah, I seen that too. Just whenever I was I just wondered what kind of person Josh was. I've heard all about Brandy. Like I said, I'm nosy. I love and I have loved and respected the Gobble family ever since I was 13 years old. So I looked and I did find where, and the best I could understand it was Josh actually owned part of the company or something that he was selling stuff off of, and that had not been disclosed to his followers. And evidently that was against rules, laws, whatever, you know. And I seen where they said that Josh just ignored it. If anybody come on and said on X or Twitter or Twitch or whatever he's on and said anything negative, he would just delete and block it. He, from what I've watched several of his videos. I watched the video about when his dad died. And from everything I can gather, what he's put out in public, he's like this laid back, easygoing guy, don't want the drama, the chaos, he's just not going to, get involved in it. That's because people would ask him about his laid back personality and stuff. And he decided to tell the story about, the day his dad died and what all went on. And y'all can go on there and find it too. Just put OG Joshua Beaver, the day his dad died. You should be able to pull it up,
Yeah, he has accounts on Twitch. He even has a YouTube, but he hasn't updated anything on it in a couple of years. But it's easy to find. But his name is Joshua Beaver, but his handle name is OG. Is it Josh OG or OG Josh?
OG Josh, I think.
OG Josh.
And I had to put in like streamer, gamer, Twitch, to get it, because there's another, I don't know if it's OG Josh, but there's somebody, Josh Beaver or somebody else that's famous.
Okay.
But if I was as blessed as he was, and I had all these people that follow me and support me like he does, I would be ashamed for them to find out that I'm doing this against somebody totally innocent when he could have been in Kendall's shoes. He could have been in Greg's son's shoes.
right? If only his dad had been able to carry. I don't want to say it like that, but if his dad had
Successful in
carried out
unaliving
what
his
he
mom.
intended, yeah.
Right, right, right. And I mean, that he made the video saying that. So, that is not hearsay.
And
Um,
now because because Josh got in trouble because of the things he didn't disclose in terms of the the financial stuff with advertisers or whatever it was with his gaming site.
right.
Now that could mean that he was also having some financial troubles,
Well,
had to pay
that
fines or whatever, right?
yeah, it was several years ago from what I saw though. And then, like I said, they said that he just ignored it and blocked people and just, went on, and a lot of his followers stayed with him. And that was before, I know 4 years ago was when he had got that contract or whatever that he was, I can send you a copy of it, that he was talking about what a blessing it was. He just couldn't tell him how much it meant, because he supported his mom and his family. Now, that was in the article. They said that's what he said.
And that
So,
contradicts the lawsuit that says that Cindy was in good health at the time of her demise. Therefore, all this earning potential that is now lost as part
oh,
of
really?
suing for and the financial
Oh,
support that
really?
Mama will provide for her kids. Sounds like the kid was financially supporting Mama.
That's what he said. And I had heard that he was sending her checks before the scam. He was accused of the scamming thing. Um, and like I said, I think that was like, I'm thinking it was, don't hold me to it, about like 9 years ago. But this article where he got this contract or whatever it was a big deal, obviously. And he was talking about what it meant to him. And he's like, I support my mom. And then he's like, and my family. So, and that was 4 years ago.
Right.
So, no, they got, now, Brandy evidently was counting on her mom's support, even though she turned 40 last year, right?
Uh-huh.
But I don't think Josh was needing his mom's support. Not according to what has said. And,
But also,
uh,
I mean, he was like a multi-millionaire, so he could have been supporting his grandparents, his mom.
right.
Um, you know,
He pointed out his mom. I mean, he said mom and my family. You know, it wasn't just my family, it was mom and my family. I support my mom and my family.
right. And Laura, the scamming stuff was not like it had to do with not disclosing a relationship. And not this is not back when he was a teenager. This was how long ago was this kid the financial disclosure that didn't happen?
Mm, I want to say I seen it like in, but don't hold me to it because I've looked at so much stuff. I know the contract was 4 years ago. The good thing that happened. So I'm thinking it's like 9 years. For some reason, I'm wanting to think it was 9 years ago.
So if it
That
was
was
9 years ago, I think
you
like
can find
31
it.
now, so he would have been like what 20, like 22 at the time.
Yeah, 22, 23. He's 33 now, right?
Holy cow.
He was 17 and a half or 17 and 5 months when his dad passed. So, and that was in 2010. So he's got a birthday, I think. Well, it's coming up. I've seen two different birth dates for him, but I think it's settled that it was in August. So I think he'll be 33, 34 in August.
Um, what's it called? Somebody asked, Pretty in Pink asked, Do you know how Josh got Pepsi support?
I have no idea. He has a lot of followers. I have no idea.
But also, like those big companies like PepsiCo, they know that people who are going to be drinking their product are playing games and are going to be watching Twitch, and so I mean, it could just be an advertising thing, and then that's how
Right. Yeah.
connection to them.
And he's been very successful, very blessed. I'm sure Cindy was very proud of him. She never mentioned him to me, but I'm sure she was very proud of him. And I'm sure there's some people that are very jealous of him and envious of him instead of being happy for him.
Right.
But
I'm trying to go back right now to see if there's any questions I missed. I know there probably are. I had been trying so long to get somebody on here who was local, who knew the Gobbles, who had any interactions with any of these people involved, and now we finally have it. And I think so many questions had come in during the time you were talking, that then now it's like trying to find all of them. And even if I can't find them right now, I mean, would you be willing to do this again sometime?
sure. I just want people to support the Gobbles. I want people to support justice for Greg and Cindy. I don't want people to not support this and help them, and all of us that love them find out the truth. And I'll be honest, I want people to shame Josh for doing this. He has been blessed, and there's, nothing is going to bring them back. And she would not want them doing this.
Right.
What they can, she has that home and stuff. That is plenty of money for them to divide and put in an account for their kids to go to college. Way more than the average person has, to be able to just say, okay, well, grandma left you this, there's no sense in them trying. I mean, they're trying to destroy the Gobble family. Greg's mom lost 3 people during that time. I think Greg and a sister and somebody else that she was close to. And they said she just went running out the house and, looking up at the sky saying, Lord, I can't take no more.
His brother Randy died. It was only like it was like within a year of him dying, right? I thought it was only a couple months before though, right?
No, it was a little more before that.
Okay.
Yeah, I can look it up, but it had been 2-3 years, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, he'd been gone a little while. And Greg missed his daddy and his brother a lot, Plus, he just battled cancer, and me.
That's what made it so hard to believe that he would have done this, because he fought so hard. He prayed so much. He wanted to live.
Right.
Do this. It just didn't make sense.
Right. Yeah. And me and Cindy talked about that because, like I said, my husband had got really sick. And I was sending them messages, giving them updates and asking them to pray, and I was just like copy and pasting to send it to people because I wasn't going to, I couldn't respond to everybody, but I wanted everybody to pray.
Mm.
And she did. Cindy did. Every time I sent one, she would send me prayers, and so I, whenever it was all over, and we found out that doctors were wrong, and you know, my husband came home, and I sent her something and told her, and she was praising the Lord with me and everything, and I said, girl, I know you've been through it too, with Greg going through. And she said, yeah, there was many nights, she had to get up in the middle of the night and, have the alarm clock set in the middle of the night to get up and give him his medicine or, whatever. So she was, a big, part of him wanting to live and him healing. And, you know, it's just a, it's just a shame. Um, that I just, it's so hard to believe. And I just don't believe it. I don't believe Greg done this. And the evidence don't believe Greg done this. So I didn't mean to talk your head off. I was just like, um,
No,
I
this
want,
is good. We've been wanting to hear from somebody for a while now, so this is great.
well, I didn't mean to do all that. I wanted to mainly, give my opinion on, and I'll give it to you whether you want it or not, but, on how wrong I think this is, what they're trying to do, and how wrong I think it is that the investigation obviously wasn't much of an investigation, or it's not adding up anyway. And what was my other point that I want to make? I guess that's it. Nothing's going to bring them back, but we would like to have the truth and the peace for the Gobble family.
Right, and one of the questions somebody had asked earlier that I couldn't find again. Somebody had asked if there's any plan for the sheriff's department to like reinvestigate or anything, and from what I understand, there just hasn't been an investigation from the start, and a lot of members of Greg's family have vocally been upset about that and have been wanting there to be more of an investigation.
Right. That's another problem I have. And because they were in Iredell County. Iredell County went to the scene. And they're the ones who done the autopsy and the report. And they're the ones who told the medical examiner, all the background, which I think, I know they need to do that, but people need to keep an open mind too. I'm afraid that may have caused tunnel vision, in this where, okay, it was, this instead of, oh, it may have been that, And then I was told by a very reliable source that Iredell County had handed it back over to Davy, since that's where they both lived, and the Ashante alert was out of.
And
And,
actually, because you're talking about this, I just really quickly want to correct something I said in the past. In the past, I said that according to different sources I had spoken to, they said that nobody from Davie County had stepped on the scene that day when the bodies were found. That's incorrect. They were on the scene. Now I don't know if they pulled up in an unmarked car, and that's why other people who were on the scene didn't know that they were there, or necessarily how that unfolded. But Davie
Davie County did come to the scene, but it wasn't until I want to say after 3 p.m. It was like after like 3 p.m. that they actually came to the scene. So Iredell County like kind of processed it. Davie County investigator did show up. I don't know for how long he was there. And sorry for interrupting to say that. I just wanted to be sure to correct that mistake.
Yeah. I didn't know. I just know Iredell County is that, who was, I know they were there. And I know they said, or I was told by a very reliable source, that they had, just turned it over to to Davie back because of those reasons. And I don't know if that's right or not. I mean, you know, um,
All I know is that Iredell County couldn't speak to anything because they had just turned all the evidence over to Davie.
right. Well, that's what I was told too. Yeah, by my reliable source that he couldn't discuss it with me because his open investigation they had turned, over to Davie. So with Kendall being part of the sheriff's department, it seemed like, they would have wanted it, Iredell County to have followed it through. You would think. But that ain't what happened.
And a few more people are kind of like asking you who you are in relation to the Gobbles, and you said that you're a friend of the family, right?
Right. Yes. Yes. But they are not aware of me being on here at all. They have no idea that I'm doing this.
And from a lot of the people I had already spoken to, just in the Moxville area, and different family members. I mean, a lot of people wanted so badly to come on and talk about their experiences with them, with the Gobbles, but most people told me either they were hesitant because of the sheriff's department, or they were hesitant because they didn't want Brandy finding out that they did this.
Yeah, well. Oh, well, I mean, it'll be okay. um, I don't know what this what this control she has over people. I mean, people being scared of her, that tells a lot right there, for people to be so fearful of her. I have heard that, her family is very mean. Um, you know, but, her dad, being Cindy's first husband, he obviously, him and Cindy divorced. So they had their issues too. But, yeah, I haven't done anything wrong. I haven't said it. I just want justice. Just like you. I love you for doing this because you are an unbiased person. Don't even live nowhere around here. Didn't know anybody. And you stumbled on this and got information that you weren't even expecting, really. And then was like, well, this isn't making sense. Or we wouldn't know. We would not know. I don't even know if Greg's son would know that it stated in the first autopsy that supposedly was a typo, that Greg was shot with 22 and no 22 was found.
Right.
So, thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. I appreciate you.
Oh yeah, thank you for saying that.
You're welcome.
It's helpful to hear that, especially when Brandy and her daughter's friends come into my lives or come onto the Justice for the Gobbles page and try to make it seem like I'm doing something to try to hurt them in some way. And
Right.
I mean, and honestly, it kind of, you know, it I would have could have easily stopped looking at this very early on,
Right.
because I had reached out to Davie County literally just because there was a discrepancy between the medical examiner report and the autopsy report on the location of Greg's body. One said it was in front of the truck, the other said it was behind the truck. And when I asked about that, for that clarification, I was told I needed a signed order by a judge from a court of competent jurisdiction. And I had said, I was baffled by that. I was like, wait, what? Yeah, this is just this. I'm just asking, which was it? And then when they told me that the clarification that they sent me the public record of the medical examiner report and the autopsy report, but that the clarification was not public record, I was like, well, this is very suspicious.
Right. Because obviously they couldn't clarify it because it didn't add up,
Right.
2 + 2 ain't 5,
Yeah. And I've continued, when Brandy had written that Facebook post saying, it was a typo. I just confirmed it with the sheriff's department, and then told me to go back to the great state of Michigan. I went ahead and called the sheriff's department to find out if that was true, and they wouldn't tell me anything. I called the medical examiner's office, and even they were baffled because they told me that they only would have sent me any of these reports had they been closed and finalized, and they could see in their records that they sent it to me on October 23rd, 2024, which meant Greg's documents were closed and finalized. And then there was no other documentation until March 6th of 2025, where they see his case was closed again. But they couldn't see who requested it, why the request was made, or any of that kind of stuff. And then the only thing that was changed was the size of bullet that ended his life. It was changed from a 22 to a 9mm. And but I've confirmed with independent medical examiners who were not part of the examination of Gregory or writing up the reports on the findings, but who confirmed for me that a 9mm they've never seen a 9mm make that small of a wound, especially in a GSW to the head. And it's just so crazy to me that this is.
And it's crazy that it was considered a typo. Like I said, the 2 is very far away from the 9 on a keyboard, and they hit the 2 twice. So why was that in their mind instead of she'd already said what they found at the scene. So that's I know Brandy responded to you saying it was a typo that you need to go back home, and I'm like, that ain't a typo. That might be a mistake, but that's not a typo. I mean, in my opinion, everybody's got one, you know what I mean? But That's and I don't think it was a mistake to begin with, according to the forensics.
Sounds to me like they altered the report to shut me up.
Right.
And then I reached out to different members of Greg's family to find out if any of them had been informed of any changes made to the report, and none of them knew anything about it. And I had put in a new Freedom of Information Act request with the medical examiner's office, and they sent me the new report. And yeah, it's just baffling to me that no one notified his family, his next of kin, his anyone, but Brandy knew. Brandy knew that there were changes made to Greg's report.
Right. Well, obviously, she told you it was typo. So, it's something's just not right. Did Greg own a 22? Do you know?
So I know that he owns multiples, but from the moment all this happened, Brandy took control of the house, and Greg had been living in that house, therefore all of his possessions were there.
That's so wrong. That is so wrong. That was a crime scene. She should not have been allowed in there. That is so wrong.
From the newer records I received from Iredell County just in the last couple of weeks, according to those reports, sorry, it was new records I got from Iredell County and Davie County, but this was a Davie County one. When they had gotten the initial well-being check call from Brandy, they went to the Country Lane home. They went to the Georgia Road residence. They went to the vacation home, and then they met back up with Brandy to inform her that they could not make contact with either Greg or Cynthia at any of these properties, and that she could feel free to go back to her mother's residence to try to make contact with her there. And then they basically washed their hands of it. So that tells me that the person to make the entry into the Country Lane residence to have discovered this evidence at the scene that indicated that they did not leave the Country Lane home voluntarily, that first person to enter the property was Brandy.
Ah, I didn't know that.
And she removed the dog from the home, from the residence.
Right.
And having...
So she went in there alone without the police?
Right. So, and we don't know for how long she was alone there and could have altered anything.
Yeah.
So it's just all really weird.
Yeah. And the diabetic medicine was not like emergency medicine.
Right. These were all misrepresentations. And then somebody in the comments had said that she worked with Greg for a really long time. And I don't know if this person was a dog trainer, if she worked with him somewhere else, but those different things that were reported by the news stations, that Greg didn't work, he didn't contribute to the marital finances in any way,
and he made Cindy believe that she had no legal recourse, no legal remedies to end the marriage or anything like that. It's like, please. She had already been married 3 times. She had already gotten divorced from one of her husbands. She knew her legal options.
Yes.
Greg worked. There were lots of different articles about the different canines he had been training. There's so many pictures. There's a bunch of different people I spoke to in Davie County who told me that he always helped them out at their farms.
Right.
So he did work.
I think they grew their own hay and stuff and built it too, if I'm remembering right.
Oh wow.
And like I said, his dad raised cattle.
He helped out on his mom's farm, right?
Right.
Right.
Well,
That's a full-time job right there. And then the Ashanti alert being issued based on the premise that Cindy had a disability that was the diabetes. We don't have copies of her medical records because Josh will not furnish them, but based on the lawsuit documents that I read through, and but from the multiple people I have spoken to, they did not know of Cindy to have diabetes. According to the people I spoke to, she went to Krispy Kreme every night, and she was on a medication for weight loss, the once weekly injectable Monjaro.
right.
And that's why I included the picture in the video I did.
Right. Yeah, I have a friend that's on that, and she was like borderline diabetic. And they were like, I think this will help with the weight and, so you won't become a diabetic. And she
Very
went on.
different from doesn't leave anywhere without her insulin.
Yeah, that wasn't insulin. Sorry, that was not insulin. Was not. I noticed that when she posted it, I was like, that's weight loss. I mean, it can help people with diabetes get their diabetes down, but it's not insulin. It's not an emergency treating drug for weight loss. Oh, and I seen where she says she donated it to the church, which, that's a prescription medicine.
Yeah, and I did Google whether or not that's legal in North Carolina, and it said that it is for some medications as long as it's in its original packaging. But
Really?
then I'm thinking to myself, okay, Monjaro has to be kept refrigerated. They're saying
Exactly.
that was the last purchase Cindy made before she went back to the Country Lane residence, and that so then she would have gone over there sometime like between like 6 and 7 p.m. And then that 911 or the well-being check happened. I was like close to, it was like after 9, before 10. And then I believe when Brandy would have actually entered the home would have been sometime between like within a few minutes of 10 or up to like 11 p.m. And I don't know if that would be considered proper storage for a required to be refrigerated medication if things happen the way the investigator said it did, which is, she was like forced to leave the residence against her will. So she would have probably kept the medicine in her car, not in the fridge.
Yeah.
That's 4 hours.
And why did she
not refrigerated?
Why would she have carried that medicine in that she just picked up if she was not planning on spending time there with him? She would have left it in her car.
So Brandy donated this medication when it very likely hadn't been properly stored for several hours.
Right. Right.
That's concerning.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't think it was legal. to give your prescription
I
drugs.
didn't think it was either, because I know that somebody in my town, she was getting a prescription for something, and then they changed the milligram, and so basically the prescription that she had now was useless, and she had to go get this other dose prescription filled. And knowing that you know insurances don't cover 100%, and prescription prices are like through the roof, she meant well, but she went on my town's open discussion Facebook board and basically said, hey, I got, and it was a silly medication too. It was not anything that gets abused. It was like, it could have been like a metformin, or it could have been like a blood pressure medication even. But it's not one of those medications that got abused. And all I know is by that night it was on the news, and
Right.
this person had lost her job, and was being criminally investigated for distribution.
Right. My sister-in-law knows somebody who somebody was having an asthma attack, and she let them use her albuterol, and then was,
Wow.
criminally prosecuted for it. Yeah. Yeah. So,
Unbelievable.
but I was surprised the church even took it. You know,
I would have
but
thought Good Samaritan laws would protect somebody with something like that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a prescription medication, but okay, if your choices are do nothing and let this person
right,
stop breathing, you
right,
do
right,
need to help them breathe.
right. Exactly. I mean, I'd do it, even knowing what I know, I'd still do it.
Well, now I try to do it much more in secret, I gotta say.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd say, I was never here. You don't know me, and I'm leaving. If it was a stranger, I mean, but just that whole, if y'all will go back and snapshot that and read what I was written with the weight loss, and I think it's the last sentence about Cindy's compassion endures. I believe is what it said, and I'm like, really, you know, what y'all are doing is not compassionate.
Really,
It's ridiculous.
yeah.
It's disgusting. And Cindy would not want them doing that.
And even all the comments and all the different articles from when they were first missing on the 29th, and then looking for them on the 30th to when they found them on the 31st. I mean, all the comments disparaging Greg, and some of the things that were written about him really, really bothered me. And then I started noticing other comments people were writing, which was people were commenting and saying, well, I knew Greg, he never would have done that, but I also know multiple comments have already been put on here and you all have deleted them.
Right. I think if you're talking about the Davie County Sheriff's, a lot of people was putting stuff on there, and they had been, fed into like a domestic violence situation. I mean, and they were just, sounding out about domestic violence, is what I saw. The people that I saw that I know we grew up with and went to school with was like, wow, what a tragedy. This is
Right.
unbelievable. And I talked to, I texted with a friend of Greg's last week, and he said he had seen Greg the day before. And he was like, unbelievable. It was unbelievable. Um, and they had some kind of conversation the day before. You know, so and I asked, um, one of the family members, I said, do you think Cindy would have wanted Greg dead? And he said, no, not at all. So
Someone commented, Kiki said, I went to Cindy's funeral and the one preacher was awful, made her out to be a bad person.
well, I didn't go to her funeral.
Kiki, I might like to have you up on panel one of these days if you're willing.
I have no idea. I didn't go. I went to Greg's. I didn't go to hers because, them not allowing the Gobble family to grieve her, and they didn't even, her name was Cindy Robertson. That's how you found it. Wasn't even Gobble.
Right.
And them, calling and saying they didn't want any of them there. I didn't go.
Laura is saying, so the person you were just referring to saw them, Greg and Cindy, the day before, and then they drove to the beach?
Oh, no. I said maybe they did. We don't know. They could have. You need to go back and rewatch the video. That's not what I said.
And then the person
I said, for all we know, they
Right.
could have went to the beach, had a good time, come back, and whatever happened.
And then Laura also said, I wonder if that call to Myrtle Beach by the Davie County investigator might have been a distraction.
Yeah, I've thought about that too. I've thought about that too. Just to get them to focus somewhere else. I don't think Greg done this. The evidence don't point towards Greg doing this. I mean, come on, people. Don't bury your head in the sand. Look at the evidence. Just look. That's all I want people to do is look at the evidence.
Right.
Yeah. The wound says it all. To me, that's my opinion. He would not have held a gun that far away from his head to leave the stippling or stifling, however you pronounce that.
I know that it's just such an awkward placement.
Right. It is. And, that you look it up, the majority of those situations, you don't find intermediate stippling or stifling with the situation they're saying. Hardly ever. It's more for the smurder.
Right. And downward trajectory. It's typically an upward trajectory and a self-unaliving. No soot, intermediate stippling. And then somebody just asked if Cynthia had a new car or borrowed a car at the time period. From what I understand, it was her car that was found in the garage. And that was like her longtime car. Do you happen to know, Kitty?
I don't. I do not.
That's true, Beachwalker, but we also don't know where they were. They went missing on, Wednesday, May 29th. They weren't found excuse me, Wednesday, May 29th, around 10 or 11 p.m. They weren't found until Friday, May 31st, around 11:30-ish a.m. So where were they all that
Yeah,
time?
it's like, what, 36, 38 hours?
Right.
Something like
So,
that.
I mean, there might not be any, verifiable proof that they were at the church, but absent that, where were they?
Right, right. Well, and if they had said how long they had been unalive, you know, that would tell us more.
Beach Walker. So the call from the Davie County investigator to Myrtle Beach Police, um, to pass along the report of the two witness sighting. So that happened. That happened 11. The call went in 11:41 p.m. on Thursday, May 30th, and the investigator said that the witnesses had called him about 20 minutes earlier, which would have meant that the witness sighting occurred around 11:20 p.m. on Thursday, May 30th. So, and Beachwalker, I did originally say that I thought it was possible that Cindy had died approximately 6 to 12 hours prior to Greg, and that was because of the more advanced state of decomposition. But and you might, I said this, I think, in a live, and I haven't updated it yet on the because it's pictures that I have up on the Just for the Gobble page. It's not like the document. So I do have to update that. I don't believe that anymore, just because I do believe that the reason why she was in a more advanced state of decomposition had more to do with the fact that her shirt was completely lifted and she was found face up. So she was more exposed to the elements than he was. And I believe that that's the reason for the greater state of decomposition.
I agree with
Because,
that.
yeah, because when I was reading it, it said that Greg was found on his right side and Cindy was found on her back. Her shirt was completely lifted, completely exposing her entire chest. And then also, when reading through the autopsy report, it describes different portions of her shirt and mirrored holes that were present. That I mean, it doesn't come right out and say it, but that I believe are mirrored holes in her clothing caused by the bullet. And what's it called? But then now, more recent. Now I had done every so many months I put in a new Freedom of Information Act request with the different law enforcement agencies, and the original time I had put in requests with Davie County and Iredell County, I got back records. About a month later, I did another request with each of those agencies, and they both told me, like, back off, lady. We sent you everything we have. Like, there's no more. Leave us alone. And then within the last month, I put in other requests for the same information, and all of a sudden, they miraculously found so many more pages that they were able to send to me. And in the more recent records I received from Iredell County, I received 16 new pages that they miraculously found. And in those records, it says that both Cindy and Greg were found face down, which is yet another discrepancy in the long list of discrepancies from this case.
Right. Yeah. Yep. It's puzzling. I mean, and then to go back and, just know Greg. I mean, he would not have done this. But then when you have evidence that's saying he didn't do it, I mean, it looks to me like he didn't do it. I mean, according to the evidence. So,
right. What's it called? I need to. I wish I could keep doing this, but like I have to now get up wicked early for my new job. So I'm probably gonna have to call it a night. I really hope, Kitty, that you want to do this again. And Kiki, I really hope you warm up to the idea of also jumping on panel. Because I think that hearing from the people who knew the Gobbles and who knew the people associated with the Gobbles will help the rest of us get a better understanding of what the dynamics were like.
Right. Yeah.
So thank you, Kitty, so much for joining.
Well, you're welcome. I hope I hadn't confused people. There was a lot, I was saying maybe they went to the beach. I didn't say they did,
Right. Well, because none of us know for sure.
Right. But some people are saying, I seen one comment saying, if my dad done this, or, if this happened to my mom, I would be, I guess suing is what they're referring to. It's not your normal case. I mean, Cindy had her belongings, her property, and Greg had his before they got together. They were older. And all I'm saying is, I think it's wrong. It's not going to change anything. It's not going to hurt Greg. Greg's gone. It's only hurting the innocent people here that love both of them.
And so soon after everything, I mean, not even having time to properly mourn. Not only that, not being able to mourn the loss of both significant people in your life, and then all of a sudden getting slapped with a lawsuit.
Yeah, I see somebody saying put up a GoFundMe, which I thought, I thought so too for the Gobbles, because, millionaire OG Josh streamer gamer, he's got plenty of money to do this with. But Josh, if you ever hear this, please search your soul and ask yourself if your mom would really want you to do this. You're the executor. You were named in her will with Kendall because she loved him too, like a son. So, if your mom is the person that we thought she was, and obviously Brandy does too with all of her posts, then she would not be wanting y'all to do this.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel. And I just want Lori, Greg's mom, she's getting old, and she don't need all this chaos. She needs some peace.
Right.
This was her, her baby. And from what I understand, she's tickled to know Greg didn't do this. That's how she's looking at it.
That's awesome.
Her son did not do this.
Right.
So, just, I know you're just wanting the truth. We're all wanting the truth.
Right. And, what's it called? Hopefully, Brandy and Josh heard the statements that you made to them. But if they didn't, I'm going to go ahead and download this, and then I'm going to upload it to my YouTube channel, and then I'm going to share it to the Just for the Gobbles Facebook page. So for anybody who came in here late, if you wanted to know everything that we discussed, be sure to check that out on my YouTube channel, Voices for Justice with Danielle, or you can look for it on the Justice for the Gobbles FB page.
Thank you. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah. I'm just so glad that you came into the live and requested to come up on the panel, because I mean, otherwise we never would have been able to have this discussion. That's and we've been wanting this for so long.
Well, and then, another friend ran into one of Greg's hunting and working buddies, and he was like, thought the Gobbles had hired you or whatever, and she's like, no, it ain't nothing like that. You need to, I'm like, people need to understand this girl is not getting paid to do this.
Yeah, and a lot of people accused me of that on the Facebook page too. Yeah, I'm not getting paid by anybody. I have no signed agreements. There's no verbal agreements of any kind of compensation. This is just 100% something that I am looking into because it doesn't seem right. And based on the people I spoke to connected with the case, they didn't think it seemed right either. But there was that looming fear, if you, I don't know if fear is the right word, or concern with the sheriff's department finding out or Brandy finding out that they were looking into anything or asking any questions. So because I live out of state, in the great state of here of Michigan, I was like, you know what? I'll look into it because I don't give a damn about the sheriff's department or Brandy.
Right. Exactly. Well, it's not like you're asking for anybody to do anything wrong. Just tell the truth.
Right.
And I am asking, I'm begging, leave the Gobbles alone. They have suffered enough. I am begging and praying in Jesus' mighty name. Cindy's compassion will endure. Amen.
Amen. All right. Well, I am probably going to try to go live other nights this week. Kitty, please keep an eye out. If you want to jump up on panel again, or I'm sure we can connect on Just for the Gobble page if you're following it. And Kiki, same. Girl, I'm going to try to seek you out and try to get you up here on this panel. And thank you everybody so much for joining. Everybody who tapped the orange heart at the top of the screen there to become a team member and or send your daily heart maze. And if you haven't done it right now, you have a chance. You have a chance because I'm pointing to the orange heart right now.
Now I'm going to say one more thing. Mm-hmm. If more Americans were like you, when you see something, say something, this world would be so much better off.
Thank you so much for
saying people would do unto others as they would have them do unto you. How you would want to be treated. It's simple. Mm-hmm. It's the golden rule. It's simple. That's what bothers me about Josh a lot, because if his dad had been successful in unaliving Cindy, how would he feel if he was being sued for everything his dad had?
Right.
And we know he definitely, according to Josh's video, he left a letter. That was his full intent to unalive her before unaliving himself.
It's funny that they ruled it an accident and then they got the insurance payout.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. Wasn't aware of that, but I wouldn't want no blood money myself.
What's that?
I wouldn't want blood money.
Right. Absolutely. But then the things that any of us might have heard about in tonight's discussion, let's all get back to digging so that then the next time we do a live, hopefully we can have a bit more clarity on some of those things that we weren't too familiar with, at least for the things that are.
Somebody said it to me, like Greg's mama talking to me at the funeral. I said, somebody told me, or whatever. So, you know, a lot of what I said is hearsay, but it comes from very reliable sources, or I wouldn't be on here saying it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm not trying to cause trouble. I'm trying to stop the injustice against the Gobbles.
Right.
I don't have a dog in the race except for my heart wanting the Gobbles to have peace.
Right. Well, hopefully, more people who knew them will feel more comfortable getting up on a panel and speaking after having seen you do it. And anytime I ever do a discussion about the Gobbles, I always kind of put it out there by the end of the live, and I tell people, you can create another TikTok account, you can change your name, you can disguise your voice. If you don't want to be easily identifiable, there's a lot of things you can do to still be able to speak
Right.
speak about your experiences, speak your truth and your experiences with the Gobbles without any fear of retaliation. And I'd just like to remind everybody of that. And if anybody does not know how to utilize any of these things, I am more than happy to go over it with anyone. If you did want to speak out and please consider to yourselves, okay, if this was your family, what would you want? If this was your family and these questions were out there because of the discrepancies, because the things just did not make sense, would you want no one to speak on your behalf?
Right.
So please give that consideration, everyone. And I really hope to,
pray about it, search your heart and pray about it. I don't like shoulda, coulda, woulda hanging in my life.
Right. So I guess I'll leave it at that and end the live. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great night.
You too. Thank you.
Alrighty, bye.
Bye.